What up, Marsh Pod? We're recording this on a Monday after active week and weekend of SimWorld Hoops, both at the prep collegiate level. Let's start collegiate. Basketball bedlam. We are 4 teams left: Miami, UConn, Creighton, and Kansas. An exciting quadruplet here of teams in the Final Four. One thing, this whole basketball bedlam is more like basketball. I can't remember what I said on one of our broadcasts, but it was witty at the time, so trust me that I've got some of that in me every now and again. But it was snoozy, right? It was put it to bed. It was basketball boredom. It didn't have the drama that we are associated to expect to get, rather, during this time of the season. And I think that we have to kind of contextualize. The bedlam really only happens that first weekend, so very rarely, and oftentimes that first Thursday, Friday, right? It barely lasts to the second weekend. And while that is always exciting and it's fun to watch a future, accountant, a future, corporate 200 executive, whatever they might end up doing with their lives, it's exciting to watch them pull upsets, these underdogs, an FAU this season who made it to the second weekend. But more often than not, by the time we reach the Sweet 16, especially the Elite Eight and the Final Four, the top teams are pretty much all that's left. And so while this season did not have a lot of excitement in that opening round, a lot of chalk, a ton of chalk, I think the product was better for it, right? We saw the best teams advancing. We saw deep runs by Tennessee and Kentucky. Kentucky, a team that notoriously is knocked out in the opening round. That's better for basketball. I understand that there's the excitement of an underdog to make a run, but to me, at the end of the day, we know that that's going to disappear. Now, that's not me rooting for top dogs every time. Not at all. I would rather see some upsets, so I'm not going to lie that it was maybe a little disappointing, but the fact that we end up with the best 4 teams and 2 1 seeds, 2 2 seeds advance. Creighton had been a top 5 team at points this season. Kansas had been in the top 10. We're getting great teams making it to the Final Four. That's a win for us. That's a win for the league. That's a win for the game of basketball, that we're going to be seeing these top future SWBA picks making it this far. Once we get there, it's going to be good. It's going to be UConn and Kansas. UConn going for the repeat. Alex Caravan has been really great for them. Donovan Clingan has been phenomenal. Fareed Redmond has been a nice addition for this group. They're going to have their hands full with Madison Miles and Kansas. With Kansas. This is a really good basketball team in Kansas. Jabbar Wilson, who, for whatever reason, at the SimWorld prep level was not, he was a bit of a stretch big, did a couple nice things. He has been completely different at Kansas than he was at any point in his SimWorld prep career. I still think UConn has the edge here. I think their depth is a little bit stronger, but Kansas is a really, really good basketball team. I would expect that to go down to the wire. On the other side, it's Creighton and it's Miami, and it's a bit of the same thing. And again, this to the original point, when we have upsets early on and you're kind of deprived of these top matchups, it's a lot easier to poke holes in both sides, right? Because it's like, well, this team can shoot, but if they're not shooting the ball well, the matchup's over. I don't see that in these 4 teams. So with Miami's just been the best team. And at no point have they made any indications that they're not just going to run away with things. I picked them early on to make the Final Four. I'm going to stand on that. I think they can win the national championship. And they're going up against a really, really good Creighton squad that's going to attack them in ways of which I think they can handle it, right? Norshad Omer and Jermaine McLemore inside match up well with the size of Stockbrenner that is going to come from Creighton. And then you've got Dominic Bianco and Edgar Fernandez, who I think match up well with Quan Singleton and the guards for Creighton. I don't think this is going to be an easy win. The Hurricanes have blown out everybody. We've talked about that. Their only games in which that were not decided by 10 points or less were losses, right? They have been dominant when they've had to face pretty much everybody. I don't expect that to stop right now. This team has been on a roll. Jermaine McLemore has erupted in a way that I don't think anybody expected him to. This was kind of like if this team was going to be great, it was going to be because of Dominic Bianco and Edgar Fernandez, when in fact it's been Dominic Bianco kind of being second fiddle and sometimes even third on big nights from Omer. I still like Miami. I like their depth. I like what they've done. Jermaine McLemore has been throughout basketball bedlam the best player in the tournament. Um, Henrik Vekic and Jameson Johnson have cases for that, but they've had some losses, and Miami has not. So I like Miami in that one. I think Miami's going to get the victory, and then it'll be Miami UConn in the national championship game, and I would take the Canes. Here's my concern with UConn. Ever since that first round, and it goes back to their conference first round loss to DePaul, they just haven't looked the same. They haven't looked dominant in the way that Miami has, right? They've been good. They've been beating teams, and I honestly thought that was going to come to an end in the Elite Eight. It didn't. They made it out of there with a win, but they just haven't blown teams out. And I'm not saying that's a prerequisite to winning a national championship, but it certainly doesn't hurt. And until that team plays at that level, that's where my concern level is gonna lie. And then to SimWorld Prep, Lakeshore Drive, our big Saturday marquee game, they continue to struggle. And I think I had excluded them from the rule of one-star only teams that I can't trust because I thought Norman Nations could be that guy. He hasn't been quite as good. And we've seen huge nights from D'Angelo Jordan on a consistent basis because he's a top recruit. We haven't seen that from other parts of this roster. And the challenge for Lakeshore Drive is they're getting exposed in what I would say, and I don't think this should be a hot take, is the most difficult region with Philadelphia, with OGs and Beasts of the East. If they get the 4 seed in that region, which they should, that means they're going to win and likely have to play one of those 3 teams because that is still a race to be the top seed in that division. That now looks a lot more favorable than it did 2 weeks ago, right? Because 2 weeks ago, you could make the argument 1 through 4 didn't really matter in terms of you're going to have to beat 2 of those 3 teams. You might as well just you try to get a matchup you like, but that will be very hard to get specific to a seed, right? You can't say I'm gonna seek the number 1 seed so that the 4 seed is going to be team X and I like my matchup, or if I get the 2nd seed, I go up against somebody at 3rd that I really like our chances. Now it's most certainly let's get Lakeshore Drive in the 2nd round, right? Because they've been playing so poorly over the last 5-6 games that 4-game losing streak win and then that really just shocking loss to Run DMV. If you get the top seed, not only obviously you got to take care of business against somebody like the North, but not only are you teeing yourself up to maybe get a really struggling Lakeshore Drive, I think there's a possibility Lakeshore Drive doesn't even win in the 1st round. I'm not predicting that, but you have to accept that as a potential reality after what they've shown us for the last 6 games. And if that's the case, let's just say for this example, I think Originators, as we record this, is number 1. If you are the Originators, you could get Run DMV in the 2nd round. You love that matchup. Run DMV, the smallest team in the region, hyper reliant on 3-point shooting. Cooper Flagg and Victoria Silgauskas will have a field day, right? So now suddenly that top seed gets a heck of a lot more interesting in the Founders region because of the way this is set up and because it's, you're going to be guaranteed probably the toughest of tough sec rounds matchups being in the Founders region. That 1st seed just got a whole heck of a lot more interesting if I am the Originators, Philadelphia, or Beasts of the East. I want that because I want to say I'm either going to get Lakeshore Drive in the 2nd round if I win, or I'm going to get a team that beats Lakeshore Drive because they have not been playing well, and I'm really going to like my chances against the bottom feeders of our league, of our region rather. That's, as we look at the final month of the regular season, there's a lot of things to watch for. To me, that jostling for the top spot, we're going to get plenty of opportunities. I think we got Beast out of the game this week in Philadelphia. I don't believe Originators play, but my memory of the schedule could be escaping me. Those are now much more important games. All those guys separated by about a game. Getting to the top spot is going to matter because now you're going to set yourself up with a much more potentially favorable matchup in the 2nd round if you advance. We're back on SimWorld Day today, tomorrow. We're back on a broadcast as well tomorrow as SimWorld Prep returns. Appreciate you tuning in. Let me know if there's anything that you're looking out for, who you've got. Saturday and Monday are semifinal and national championship games, Kansas and UConn, Miami and Creighton. We'll recap the semifinals on Monday, and we'll probably we didn't do an emergency pod on Friday because it just nothing really jumped out to me, but we will definitely do a instant reaction Monday night, so probably Tuesday morning it'll come out, probably sometime around after SimWorld today. But all that coming up. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll talk to you then.